Okay, I think we're on. Let me know if you're seeing the feed, and then we'll go. So dusty in here. Are we live?
I don't know, are we?
I'm asking you because you have a laptop in front of you.
Yes, we're live.
Sweet. Okay, welcome everybody. It is Friday. That means it's time for us to sit here and talk for a little bit.
Brett, I said to the chat, I said, sorry we're late. And Brett said, I'm sorry you've been late a number of times. We're going to have to let you go.
This is your fifth tardy, Nicole. And
no, I just
see the secretary on your way out.
I spaced and I started using the new delivery service, the Walmart grocery pickup.
Yes.
So I do my grocery shopping on my phone now, which I love. And then I set it up.
That's so you.
Yeah.
Are you earning badges and bonus points? Like Nicole's like, ooh, celery achievement.
I just love it so much.
If they did that, you realize you'd probably shop more, right?
Well, no, I don't. Yeah, maybe.
Like you should get achievements if you buy a certain amount of healthy food,
right?
Or like
right.
organic food.
Right.
That would be great.
Gamify.
Great idea. So anybody wants to set that up, let me know and just send me my investment checks.
And it integrates with that new meal plan we're using, e-meals.
Yeah,
so
it's pretty cool.
Anyway.
All right.
Saves time, but yeah, obviously it didn't save me any time this morning.
Not today. So hey, it's Friday Live. I'm Mark.
I'm Nicole.
And we're just going to answer some woodworking questions.
We got a couple of things in the mail. I got so busy. It's been sitting in the P.O. box for a little while. So we got a really amazing challenge coin from Rob Malcolm from Okinawa. So
this
Rob
is Marine Corps too.
Yes, and so Rob is in Okinawa, Japan. So in my job, I have to travel a lot, and being able to listen to Wood Talk or watch your videos, this is sticky, gives me the woodworking fix I need to tide me over until I can get back to my shop. As a token of appreciation, here's a challenge coin to add to your collection. This is a really cool one.
This is beautiful.
So Curtis sent me a really cool challenge coin rack, and I'm slowly filling it up. So I'm going to add this to my rack.
Still plenty of room.
Yes.
You know, Karate Kid 2 was in Okinawa.
Is it?
That's where Mr. Miyagi's from.
Is he from there?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You know he's a fictional character, right?
No, he's very real to me.
And this is a shirt from Brooklyn Buffalo Woodworks. So, look at that.
You know, we should probably...
Boba Fett.
We should probably look at these before we unveil them, considering some people really get my sense of humor. He messaged me and told me he was going to send this. So, it's Boba Fett wearing a Fretsaw. This is actually...
I didn't get the joke.
Yeah, he came up with the idea and had the shirt made. This is awesome, dude. I know you mentioned it.
Marcus.
I think it was on Instagram.
Oh, he even has this little... Oh, that's a very cool logo.
But I was like, yeah, that actually sounds really funny. So,
Brooklyn Buffalo. I kind of want to eat barbecue now.
I kind of want to go to Brooklyn and ride a buffalo around town.
I don't know why it reminds me of maybe buffalo wings.
Probably.
Yeah. So Marcus and Rob, thank you so much for sending us some cool stuff.
Yeah, we really appreciate it.
I feel like we're not worthy of stuff that people send us.
Well, we're not.
Yeah.
We're absolutely not.
We're not worthy.
Real quick, I do want to thank some folks who helped us out on Patreon. That's patreon.com/woodwhisperer. We got a couple names here. Paul Gibbs, Tom Kelly, Stephen Matz, Paul Nikushlin, Brooklyn Buffalo Woodworks, Jason Sanders, Van Gogh, and Christopher Klingerman. So thank you so much, folks. We really appreciate it.
Yeah.
By the way, last week, great meetup.
Yeah.
Look at the shirt I'm wearing.
I love your shirt.
At the Denver Tool Library. This was a lot of fun. Like most meetups, it's everyone kind of piles into a room, and then there's a lot of this.
No, it was a chance for... It wasn't just about you.
I'm just saying meetups are just a little awkward.
Yeah.
It doesn't. It's not even about me. It's about a bunch of guys who never met each other just standing around.
And you know, you guys are in a solitary kind of hobby for a reason. So.
She's saying you're hermits and you like being alone.
But I like the chance. I'm really glad we did it at Denver Tool Library, and thank you, Denver Tool Library, for letting us hang out. They're converting the back. We were in the back part of the shop, and they're converting it into kind of a shared space. So they had like a grizzly bandsaw. They had a planer. I don't know. I can't ever tell planer and joiner apart.
Very different tools.
I know they're different,
Yeah.
but did they have a jointer?
They had a jointer and a planer.
And okay, they have both.
But this place is pretty cool. Like if you need a tile saw, for instance, you know, you're doing a tile job in your house, probably don't want to buy a tile saw. The place is what, $80 a year?
$80 for the whole year.
And you can just rent anything you need
They
from
had yard equipment, they had rakes.
Just oddball stuff that you probably don't want to buy, right? You know, really, really cool idea. So I'm sure other cities have facilities like that, but I was pretty impressed.
$80 for the year, and they're building out that back portion. So if you're in Denver and you're like, oh, I don't have a shop, but I like to get into woodworking, or I like to, you know, mow my lawn, check out Denver Tool Library.
That's what everyone
And they're
says.
always taking donations too. So.
Also, speaking of meetups, Atlanta, IWF.
I organized it yesterday.
Yeah, so we organized the meetup, and we initially capped it at 75, and because we're working with Highland Woodworking, and then that went within an hour. It was just done. 75 tickets were done. So then they were basically going to open up the entire store, have a full staff at the store after hours for us, so they upped the capacity to 200. And those are also gone. Yeah. Right? So
there might be one left, but I had 9 left when I checked it this morning, so I'm sure they're gone.
So check the post if you can find it. That's an Eventbrite thing that we set up, and it's if you can't go, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what to say. I hate the fact that we're actually have to turn some people down who would want to show up for this.
We're getting into fire code territory.
It's a lot of people.
Yeah.
So,
and if you did get a ticket and you aren't going to go, please release your ticket.
Yeah, release it.
You can.
Because that's going to happen. There's going to be no shows, unintentional. But there might be some people who are like, oh, I'm going to grab a ticket just in case. But you know, it is what it is. But hopefully we'll see some of you there. It's going to be a great time. Let's get to some questions.
And I will be messaging everybody that did get a ticket, just to touch base, remind you if you're not going.
To harass you.
Yeah.
Is what she's going to do.
Harass you. All right, so we have a couple questions from Patreon. Marc just read off the Patreon supporters. If you're at a $5 level, I basically posted the day before, and you can preload your question. I also pull from the YouTube chat when I see it. So this one is from Eric Monson. Hey, Marc and Nicole, are there any books you would recommend that have a particular broad coverage of design strategies for dealing with wood movement? I feel like I've picked up pieces here and there through your videos, Wood Talk, and a couple of guild projects, but I was wondering if there are any classic sources that deal with it as well as a specific topic.
Not that I know of.
What about understanding wood?
No. He's talking about it as a specific topic being wood movement within the confines of furniture. How you design for wood movement, and that's not, I could be wrong, but I don't know that that book exists. I think most of the time you find wood movement.
There's your next book.
Yeah, that sounds like a blast. Wood movement is one of those things you address on a per project basis. It's also something that depends on the material you're using, so it's highly variable. And it's one of those things that you kind of just attack it as you go. So correct me if I'm wrong, somebody in the chat, if you know of a book that does this, that would be a great resource, and it does sound like a really cool topic. The trick, though, is I can tell you how much room to allow for one species and one set of conditions. The trick is that changes depending on where you're at.
I was going to say, yeah, the actual location, because
the location and the weather.
Design in Arizona and take that piece to...
Yeah, you could break rules in places like Arizona because it's generally dry and stays that way for a long time. Take that piece of furniture to... well, I don't know, down south, it could be a very big problem.
Did the chest of drawers, that one drawer, stick in Arizona? It wasn't until we brought it up here.
I think we have a little bit more moisture for longer periods of time here, humidity, I should say. So that one did seize up a little bit. I don't recall if it did in Arizona.
Yeah, I don't remember it. Because I put away his socks.
Yeah, it's pretty dry in Denver, so it shouldn't be too much of a problem. But if we move to like just a place that's a lot more humid, like the South, we could have a lot of problems with our furniture.
Yeah, that's true.
So someone write that book.
Get
Shannon would be a good candidate to write that book.
All right, Stumptown Woodworks has a very, very long question.
Oh, mama.
It's like 4 paragraphs long.
Did you read it already? Can you sum it up?
He's using a off-the-shelf based Varathon stain. Is that?
Varathane?
Varathane.
Yeah.
Varathane.
Varathane thing. Yeah. It's actually Varasane, and Nicole just pronounces it with a lisp.
He wants to avoid ambering.
Varathane.
Varathane. I can't say it now. Stop it.
It's that lisp of yours.
I don't have a lisp. He's leaning towards spraying. I had a can of Rust-Oleum clear enamel spray. He's talking about the color and the spray. He says, but can you see any reason not to try out this finish, an oil-based spray poly likely to add a warmer tone to the end color, which I like to avoid on this one normally. I like that though.
Here's the problem,
blah,
hon.
blah,
If you
blah.
don't read the entire question, I don't actually know what he's asking.
I know. Do you want me to read the?
I think we should skip it and move on.
Well, okay.
I'll try to get back to you.
We'll
sometime.
answer it on Patreon.
I'll
It's
answer it
just
directly on
we
Patreon.
We gotta keep that.
She's trying to summarize
But
by
I'm not
reading
good.
the last paragraph, which generally doesn't work.
Mike Davies. I was falling asleep to the Friday Live playlist the other night, as I often do.
That's so nice.
Oh. Lullaby.
Yeah, he loves us.
And good night.
Oh, little Mike.
Good night, Mike.
I'm rubbing the side of your head with my hand. Go to sleep, Mike.
We're going to take you through some guided meditation right now.
Night, Mikey.
All right. He heard say something like, I could talk about barbecue all day. So let's have a snippet. How does one use shop shavings and waste to flavor their food in barbecue? I imagine sawdust is out, but plain shavings, little cutoffs, plainer chips. How do you burn them? I can't imagine fire them in a barbecue and letting them start a fire in the bottom.
Why can't you?
I don't know.
That's a great
Don't
way
you
to
have
go.
like one of those little do-jobbies, a little canister thing, and you put like the shavings and
Yeah.
the things?
Yeah,
and
like
the
a starter
paper?
chimney.
Yeah, starter
Chimney starter. Here's the thing. Barbecue, yeah, you want to light that wood on fire. That's the whole point. If you have enough of it, you could almost make your entire cook fire from fresh wood, but it's nice to have some hard lump charcoal in there as well. Just burns longer and gets nice and hot. So I'll usually, I mean, it depends on what I'm cooking. If I'm looking to do smoking, I will get my lump charcoal all heated up and ready to go, pop that guy in there, and then right before I'm ready to add my meat, I will throw some cherry in there. Cherry is one of the things I work with the most, and it's a great smoking wood. It's got a nice sweet flavor to it. But there are a lot of other domestic species you can use. You just kind of have to know what they're going to do and which meats they're really good for. Some of the sweeter stuff tends to lend itself well to porks, chicken. The stuff that's a little harsher, like your hickories and mesquites, those tend to be something that might, I don't know, maybe good for beef. But it also has a lot of personal taste to it. I mean, some people want a harsher smoke flavor and some people want just a hint. But I just toss my scraps in there. I mean, I cut them up into small pieces, toss them in, and they're good to go. Whether it's, obviously, if it's shavings or sawdust, it's just going to kind of go up quickly. So it's usually chunks, right? But yeah, I mean, I do this all the time. And if you want to make a primary fire from just the wood, like I said, you could do that. But I think the hardwood lump is going to make the fire last a little bit longer and potentially burn hotter. And it doesn't necessarily create as much flame as it does like a smoldering action.
And just check and make sure our daughter's still in the same place.
Yeah, she's playing Raipan.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should have a barbecue segment. That'd be great.
Yeah, that would be cool. Oh, did you tell everyone you won a barbecue award?
No, I didn't. Yeah, we had a little cook-off in
Little
the
neighborhood cook-off.
And yeah, so we had a friendly competition, and my neighbor had a little trophy made up for whoever wins the taste test. And I think it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But I have a nice trophy sitting on my
He was so proud.
mantle.
Maha, you made his day.
Yeah, and next year we'll pass it to the person who wins. It was pretty fun.
Who's going to win?
Probably Seth. Maybe Jim.
All right. We got a super chat from Varric13, but Varric, you didn't put in questions, so if I'll keep checking the chat if you do.
Cool.
Matt Van
Overloop.
Overloop. I always want to say Vanderlist.
Vanderlist Overloop.
How long are screws for the dog's wood spring of the roubo?
Oh, okay. They're little tiny guys. I just use those little, I don't know how long it is, but you can see at the bottom here, it can't be very long, right? It's a very thin piece of material, so you're going to countersink. You know, this guy's only about 1/8 of an inch. You're going to countersink a little bit, as much as you dare, so that the screw head is nice and flush. It's really no more than 1/2 inch on there. And with 2 of them in place, I've never had one of these snap off. So I would say no more than 1/2 inch. But I mean, you got a thick enough material there, you probably could get away with 3/4, but I don't think it's necessary.
Got another super chat from David Murphy. Love this show. Thanks for keeping me entertained. A big fan of you both. Well, David, we're fans of you.
Yes, we are. We're big fans of your beds.
Murphy.
Also your law.
You know, there's a Murphy bed store right off of Santa Fe. I always wonder.
No.
You
But
have
that's
a-
amazing, Nicole.
No, the reason why I'm saying is I didn't realize Murphy beds were that in a demand to have just a store for Murphy beds.
Apartment dwellers, small rooms, spare
yeah.
bedrooms. It's like, it's a big step up from, you know, a futon or
Yeah,
something,
that's
you know what I mean?
true.
Like if you want a
Yeah,
bed
yeah.
that's not there most of the time.
And Joe did I say his name right? Lapalito?
Sure, sounds good.
Joe.
That's what I would have said. Thanks, Joe.
1 vote for Friday Live Barbecue Edition.
That would be awesome. Let's do it. All right, get some more. Hit
John
me.
J. Jingle.
Heimer?
It's John J. Sharp. Is Festool Brushless Orbital Sander really worth it? I use a DeWalt Random Orbit Sander currently, and it vibrates like heck.
It's hard to say. It's hard for me to say if it's worth it for you. I've been using the Festool line of sanders like exclusively since maybe 2008. I know prior to that, I actually went through quite a few DeWalt sanders that just pooped out on me. Had a Bosch sander at one time, and you know, they are smoother. They do operate much more easily, so there's not as much hand and wrist pressure to fatigue you as you're trying to control this thing. And the smoother the thing operates, the better the results. Sometimes you go, even with a random orbit sander, you look at the surface after you're done. If you get the right raking light or put some liquid on the surface, you see those little squiggly marks, those little pigtail looking things. And that can happen by putting uneven amounts of pressure or a sander that's just kind of unruly. So you're trying to control it the whole time, and it's actually not staying perfectly flat. So is it worth it? I can't say it is or not, but I can say that if you're going to invest in a sander and you want one that has limited vibration, that's probably going to be one of the ones you want to look at.
Got another super chat from Jen Big. No question, just wanted to say hi. We are loving Colorado.
Oh, that's good, Jen. Yay. Even with all the hail?
Well, she's in the Springs.
Yeah, did they get
that's
hit
how
with
they
hail?
say. That's how the locals say.
That storm was pretty
she's
big.
in the Springs.
Okay.
I don't know if it was at the Springs.
Well, good, Jen. Nicole's excited about saying the Springs.
The Springs.
She's local now.
I'm local now. Varick13 gave me his question. How should I stack wood so it doesn't warp? I bought an 8-foot board, a Paduke, that is now twisted. 45 degrees from one end to the other.
Well, in some cases, there's not a whole lot you can do.
Can you just like smash it between another board?
Yeah, I mean, you could sticker and stack it. You could put clamps on it to kind of keep it nice and flat. But here's the thing. Sometimes wood is going to just move no matter what you do. In your case, if you actually have a 45-degree twist, if it's that severe, I don't think anything you could have done in the shop would have prevented that.
Can you take it back?
Yeah, some places might take it back depending on when you bought it and what their policies are. I know like Bell Forest, for instance, is really good about returns and replacements if you have, you know, jacked up wood. But if it's a local shop, it's going to depend. But if it, like I said, if it's doing that, that wood had some inherent instability that caused that to happen. I don't think you are at fault for something like that. But generally, stickering and stacking is one of the best ways to do it.
What do you mean by sticker?
Lay your boards down.
Put some stickers on it?
Yeah, put some Wood Whisperer stickers in there. They're inexpensive. But basically, cut a bunch of like strips of wood and you lay them in there. So the idea is you're going to stack it and you are allowing air to flow on all sides of the board. And that's what allows it to dry evenly or take up and lose moisture at an even rate. And the more boards you stack up, it sort of weighs itself down, right? But you can also, if you need to, if it's smaller pieces or something, you can always put cauls on there and clamp it and sandwich it down, which encourages it to stay flat.
So Ben C has a different question, but it relates to the wood movement. He says, will old wood move less than new wood? I used a 100-year-old oak for a tabletop and accounted for movement, but I don't know if movement and warping is less likely. What about old versus new growth wood?
Maybe, and I think the only reason you might see a difference is because if the wood is 100 years old, then chances are it actually was cut from a source that was older to begin with. So the wood just may be inherently more stable because of the condition of the tree at the time that it was felled and cut into boards. So there might be something to that.
And if it would have warped, wouldn't it have warped earlier? I'm going to wait 100 years to warp.
Yeah, but I mean, we're not talking about warping so much as seasonal humidity.
Movement. I see.
So he's asking about seasonal stability.
Yeah.
So I mean, if I take, for instance, this piece of cherry and somehow manage to fast forward 100 years, is this piece of cherry going to expand and contract more or less 100 years from now? to my knowledge, it's going to expand and contract exactly the same amount. It still should be able to take on and lose moisture at the same rate. You know what? I'd be curious from people who actually work with a lot of reclaim stuff, what they've seen. But I don't want, let's not confuse the fact that, again, some of that material that they built with 100 years ago was taken from more older growth forests. So the wood, because of that reason, could very well have additional stability or different properties. So who knows?
Andrew Duff Riddle, what happened to Wood Talk? The last video on YouTube is 3 months ago.
Well, did you listen to the last episode?
Apparently you didn't.
Yeah, listen to the last episode at the very end, and you'll know exactly what happened to Wood Talk.
They're on summer break.
We announced the summer break on the last published episode. So we'll be back, but this is our periodic few weeks off.
He's not quitting.
That's right. Well, I asked the guys, I said, you know, we don't have to quit. We don't have to end the show, but can we just not come back from break? You know, and never say anything about it? I don't think that's going to work.
No, I don't think so either. Geraldo Rivera. Hey guys, what finish remover do you recommend for teak wood, or in a boat?
He says teal, but he has to mean teak.
Should I try sanding or a chemical remover?
Chemical removers and sanding, I mean, it's up to you. If you have a lot of material to remove and it's thick.
And is it inside like a room? I mean, you have to ventilate that stuff.
Yeah.
You're using chemicals.
Sure, but it's on a boat.
Yeah.
So that would mean he has his boat inside his living room.
No, there are...
I know what you mean.
I mean, like...
It's fine. Like, you're talking about the work inside the boat.
You go down...
Not necessarily the bright work, is what you're saying, Nicole.
What?
It's just, look, it's an inside term. I know these things I know these marine terms. These are just things that are in my vocabulary.
Oh, okay.
So here's the thing, you know, especially if you're talking about some of the exterior surfaces, if they really have layered on tons of finish, it's going to be a bear to sand through that. Additionally, sanding is something that creates a lot of unevenness. So you'll find you'll burn through and get back to raw wood in one area.
Yeah, it is teak wood.
But nothing else around it has been brought down to bare wood. So I would not be in favor of sanding. I would probably try a chemical stripper. They can be a little nasty depending on which one you get. There are formulas that are a little bit better for you in the environment. They could be time consuming, but you're talking about a very thick finish that you just kind of come along with a scraper and the finish is gone. And then you just kind of clean it up and sand, you know, the remaining stuff off the surface. That's a little bit, I think, easier if you have a lot of this stuff to do.
Mark Thomas had a recommendation for him too. Not knowing what kind of finish is on there, you could try a heat gun first and see if it peels up before you go with chemicals.
Yeah, there you go. So if it's a big thick finish, using a heat gun, you warm it up, it gets more pliable, and kind of the same way as the chemical stripper, come back with a putty knife and you could kind of scoop it all out of there. But think about it, turning all of that thick finish into dust particles, not the best way to go, you know, not ideal.
Alex Kilpatrick, technically not barbecue, if using direct heat. I don't. So that was his super chat.
Okay. Thanks for that. Yep, she disappeared.
She disappeared. I'll load a couple questions in here.
Load them up.
Craig Story, going to make an outdoor bench. Would you prefer drawboring pegs or fox tenons for mortise and tenon joints?
Well, you know, I think either one is a good solution. So what he's talking about, outdoors, whoa, go. Get over there.
Wait.
We have a kid who is not very good on steps, walking over to the steps holding her little folding chair, which 2 seconds later would have been a faceplant. So, all right, parrot reflexes. All right, what the heck were we talking about? Just totally lost me. Okay, so when you put this stuff outside, mortise and tenon joint, you know, ultimately in time, there's a really high likelihood that you're going to have a failure. So you want to reinforce the joint. One of the ways is by drawboring, which is basically throwing a peg through the mortise and tenon joint and kind of sucking it in. It kind of mechanically pulls it nice and tight, which is additional reinforcement should that glue ever fail. The other thing is a wedged tenon. So kind of in a similar vein, the tenon goes in, you drive the wedges, and it forces the sides of that tenon into the mortise walls, making it even stronger. I think both of them are good solutions for reinforcement. It's hard for me to say which one would be better in any particular circumstance. Hi, Ava, how are you? But yeah, 6 1/2 dozen. Man, am I distracted right now. Come say hi, Ava.
Here, you want to say hi? Look at the camera. Say hi. Hi.
What is on your face?
Yogurt.
Oh, okay. You're going to sit in your chair?
You're going to sit in your chair, and you're going to be quiet, okay?
All right. So Crazy Beaver Woodworking says, I'm about to attempt a humidor project on the website. I guess he's talking about the Guild humidor. Want to use zebrawood for the outside. Do you think that's a good or bad idea? The outside of your humidor, Crazy Beaver, is irrelevant. It's totally aesthetic. The design of that humidor is to allow the Spanish cedar to be the interior of the box. What happens on the outside, whatever you want it to look like is what you can use. I use some really nice Babinga veneer, I believe. You can use anything you like. Yeah, it would look cool. I think that would look really cool. Yep. So as long as you like the way it looks, go for it.
She said, she goes, be quiet.
Okay, we're being quiet, Emma.
Let's see, and just double check to make sure I have any super chats.
We actually should probably close it off
Yeah, we
here.
should probably. Let me quickly read you Stumptown since I don't have really any other questions.
How about I read it?
Okay, you read it.
Long question. Here's the background info. I have a project that is being stained with an off-the-shelf oil-based Varathane stain from Home Depot. I want to avoid any ambering and keep this thing true color the stain has turned out. I didn't want to use a water-based poly for fear of raising the grain, and I'm leaning towards spraying because there is a lot to do, and my typical armor seal worries me, and I might miss a drip or a run somewhere in this 8-foot-long vanity and all the doors and drawers that go with it. I had a can of Rust-Oleum crystal clear enamel spray, basically matte clear spray paint, and tried it on a piece of birch ply with the same stain, and it had been allowed to dry for 24 hours. The color looked, I'm stumbling.
I'm rubbing off on you.
Here. The color looked good after 2 coats and a super light 400 grit sanding. Looking at the MSDS, my brain is not following this. I need to be able to concentrate, and I can't. Sorry for wasting everyone's time. I will answer his question directly when I have time to actually think.
All right.
I'm sitting there reading it going, words are coming out, and it's just not sinking in to the old brain.
It's a very complicated question.
It's not that complicated. I just need to be able to let my brain work.
All right. So Josh Duplin just did a super chat. No question this week. I can never break away and watch you guys live, but I have coffee on me.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, Friday mornings are tough for some people.
Yeah.
Totally get it.
John Hall has a question. My amazing niece placed her sippy cup on my ash cookie table. It's end grain. Cookie table. What's a cookie table?
Basically, it's a cross section of a log.
Oh, okay. I was like thinking those biscuit cookies.
No. It's a table that you eat cookies at.
I have a cookie table.
We have a house full of cookie tables.
Cookie tables. Cookie table finish with 5 coats of General Finishes Armor Seal. The cup left a noticeable ring that won't wear off. Help.
Yeah, you know.
We have a table like that, and it'd be nice if you could fix that.
Yeah, do we? Where?
The hall table.
Oh, yeah,
nice
I know
big
what you're talking
ring
about.
on it.
That's how I handle rings. I go,
I'll just move
fine.
it over here out of the way.
I'm going to put a plant on top of that. You know, there are lots of tricks out there for getting rid of things like white rings and moisture stains and things like that. It kind of depends. One thing that I would probably do is attack that top surface. This may not be right for everybody, but I would lightly abrade the top surface, come back, almost like you're buffing the finish out, right? Then come back with some mineral spirits and see if it goes away. So what that'll tell you, if it does go away, is that you could hit it with another very light coat of armor seal and just kind of seal it up and you won't see it anymore. If it doesn't go away, you might need to just sand a little bit more to go a little bit deeper. But there might be little tricks and tips. I've heard, if it truly is a moisture white ring, I've heard of people using things like hot air, so a heat gun, as long as it's not close enough to burn the surface. You don't want to melt the finish, but you're basically trying to drive the moisture out of it. So warm, dry air is one of the ways that you could do that. But I don't really fix stuff like that very often, other than more of a, it's a more aggressive method of fixing by actually removing that top layer of finish.
I would love for you to fix.
I bet your chat room's got some suggestions for that.
Eagle Cot. How do you envision your audience? It often feels like you're speaking to Americans, and I feel left out as a European. Well, Eagle.
Well, here, I
we
mean,
live
here's
in
the
the
thing.
U.S.
I envision my audience as anyone who
Yeah.
wants to watch the show.
Yeah.
I don't change what I say to gear to gear toward a particular locality.
You don't say metric.
Yeah, we're not going to use the metric system because that's not what I use. We do offer metric plans on everything that we produce, both metric and imperial. But I mean, honestly, don't feel left out. How much of what we talk about really is location dependent? We're just talking about woodworking.
Do you think he's talking about this show? We have a lot of like American TV show references.
He asked on his show, it's hard to say.
Yeah, so I don't know if you're talking about us
Here's
right
the problem, man. We're Americans.
Yeah.
So it's only natural that when we're having casual conversation, that we would sound like Americans. There's not much I could do about it.
Good day.
Oh, good day, mate.
Oh, that's Australia. Sorry.
Nicole, stop it.
I can't even get the European right.
Talking about finishes could be something because
a
lot of what I found is a lot of things we have in the U.S. you just can't get elsewhere.
Yeah.
And they're also sold by different names. So it's almost a different set of vocabulary. But if that's the case, don't feel unwelcome. This is just the nature of the situation. You're always welcome.
Always welcome.
So, I mean, we could look at our statistics and tell you how many are non-U.S., but I will say statistically, the vast majority of our audience is U.S., followed by Canada, followed by Australia. And that's the way it breaks down. I would imagine most woodworkers and most woodworking shows and YouTube channels have a very similar profile.
I remember when we first started, too, we got a lot of emails from people in Europe saying, this is great. Woodworking is not a hobby here. It's a profession.
Which is why we have so much more fun stuff for the hobbyists, because in other countries it is more of a profession
very serious.
Than something you do for fun.
Yeah.
And fewer people are doing it than what we have here.
Last
question.
Jesus says, what kind of finish would you use for a mirror frame in a bathroom? Someone told me to use lacquer, but I've never worked with it.
Well, presumably in your bathroom you've got ventilation. Right? So you're going to have moisture, but it's also going to go away fairly quickly. It will be quick bursts of moisture. If you're in a situation where you don't have that, there's no ventilation or fan or a big open door or something, that could be problematic, and that's when you probably want to start to look into more of your marine style finishes, the ones that will withstand a lot of moisture, are flexible so that if the wood expands and contracts, the finish goes with it without cracking. But I think most current bathrooms have ventilation and it's a short-lived amount of moisture that's there. Finish it with anything you want. I don't think it's going to be a problem. You might have a little bit of splashing coming up from the vanity going onto the mirror, but generally that's minor amounts. So I would say go with some kind of a film finish. Armor seal is great. Lacquer, I think, is perfectly fine. But I don't think, in most situations, I don't think you're going to have to go and bend over backwards with spar varnishes and things like that.
Okay. All right.
We're good?
Miss Ava's over here doing
what she do.
She's playing a app. It's a Mr. Potato Head app. So
she looks so cute sitting in that little chair.
She is so cute.
Here, you guys want to see Ava?
Ava.
And you wonder why I'm distracted. I got this little bean burrito sitting down there playing games, looking all cute.
Ava, say hi. Hi, Daddy.
Hi, Daddy.
What are you doing, Ava?
What are you doing?
What are you doing?
You're watching a movie? Yeah, everything's a movie right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And that is the Ava Minute Update. All right, thanks everybody.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
See you next time.
Bye. Thanks for hanging out.